Cale had never thought he would feel so small in a crowd. The settlement of Vera stretched out before him like a living painting. Tall, shimmering buildings reflecting the twin moons, streets filled with aliens of every shape, color, and size. Some had wings, some had multiple limbs, and others seemed like walking crystals, their bodies glowing softly under the alien sun. For a human, it was overwhelming. For Cale, it was frightening. He had come to Vera to repair an old transport ship. A simple assignment at first, but already he felt out of place. Everywhere he went, the aliens stared. Whispers followed him. Some were curious, some suspicious. A human, alone? Working here? Cale wasn't weak, but humans were smaller, slower, less advanced than most alien species. The thought had crossed his mind many times. Am I really supposed to be here? Yet he had trained, learned their tools, understood their language, and somehow survived the first few weeks. Still, nothing could have prepared him for today. He carried a small lunch in his hands, a simple sandwich he had made himself. Humans ate differently, and the alien cuisine often made his stomach turn. He preferred something familiar, something small he could enjoy alone. Cale found a quiet corner near the central fountain. Water shimmered under the sunlight, cascading down sculpted stones in gentle waves. The sound was calming. He unwrapped his sandwich and took a slow, deep breath. Finally, a moment to himself. As Cale took the first bite, he noticed movement at the edge of his vision. A shadow, elegant and purposeful, fell over his tray. He looked up. Her presence made his chest tighten. The alien princess. He had seen her only in holographic images broadcast across Vera, radiant, regal, untouchable. Her skin glimmered like liquid violet, her hair flowing in colors that shifted like starlight, and her eyes that seemed to hold galaxies within them, were fixed on him. For a heartbeat, Cale froze. The guards behind her shifted uneasily, sensing her interest, but she ignored them completely. She stepped closer, slowly, deliberately, until she stood at the edge of his quiet corner. Kyle swallowed hard. Hello, he managed, his voice barely more than a whisper. The words sounded foolish even to his own ears. What could a human say to a princess? The princess tilted her head slightly as if studying him, reading something deeper than his words. Cale felt heat rise to his cheeks. Humans were always measured by strength or skill in alien eyes, and he had neither. Yet she didn't turn away. She watched. She waited. Without thinking, Kyle did something he had never done before. He broke his sandwich in half and held it out toward her. You can have some, he said, voice shaking, unsure if it was brave or foolish. Time slowed. The princess's eyes widened just a little. Her lips parted, not in anger, not in command, but in quiet surprise. Slowly, carefully, she lowered herself to sit beside him. Guards stiffened behind her, but she ignored them entirely. She took the half sandwich with delicate fingers, her eyes never leaving his. You're different, she whispered. Her voice was soft, musical, almost fragile, but it carried weight that made Cale's heart pound. No one else would share. Cale blinked. He wanted to say something, but words failed him. He had shared his meal on instinct, without thinking of status or danger. And somehow that simple act had bridged the impossible gap between a human and a royal alien. For the first time in his life, Cale felt seen. Not as a human, not as an outsider, but as someone worth noticing. His chest tightened with a mixture of fear, excitement, and a strange warmth that spread through him. Around them, the crowd continued. Aliens went about their business, life carried on. But for Cale, nothing else existed in that moment except her. She nibbled at the bread quietly, occasionally glancing at him as if trying to understand this tiny, fragile creature who dared to offer kindness in a world where humans were often dismissed. Cale felt a strange pride, but also a deep humility. He was just a human. Just one human. And yet somehow sitting there beside her, he felt important for the first time ever. That moment, brief and fragile, would change everything. After that first quiet meal, Cale couldn't stop thinking about the princess. He didn't know why she had sat beside him, why she had whispered those words, or why her presence made his heart race in a way no human, or alien, had ever done before. Yet something had shifted in him. Something fragile, almost invisible, had opened. Over the next few days, the princess began to return. Always quietly, always alone, she would find him in the corners of the settlement where humans rarely went. At first, Cale worried. Surely this was forbidden. A princess could not mingle with a human, not openly. Guards whispered warnings in the shadows, and other aliens stared, confused or angry. Yet she ignored it all as if those rules didn't matter when it came to him. Their conversations were strange at first. She spoke of worlds he could barely imagine. The politics of her people, the burden of her crown, the loneliness of being expected to be perfect all the time. Kale listened, offering nothing but attention and curiosity. He asked questions, gentle ones, never judgmental, never probing too deep. He didn't know how to impress a princess, and she didn't seem to want him to. She simply wanted to be heard. For Kale, it was a revelation. On Earth, humans often judged one another by power, money, or appearance. Here he saw someone so powerful, so untouchable, yet so vulnerable, and he realized something. She was just like him, lonely, searching for someone who would understand. Days turned into weeks, and their quiet bond grew. The princess laughed at his awkward jokes, a sound like wind chimes, delicate and impossible to ignore. Kale learned to mimic her customs, to understand her language better, and sometimes she even shared pieces of her world that were meant for no human eyes. Together, they explored small parts of the city where she could be free, and he could be seen as more than a visitor. But it was not without tension. Rumors began to spread through the settlement. Other aliens noticed the princess spending time with a human, whispering questions behind closed doors. Why does she sit with him? Who is this human to her? Kale could feel the scrutiny, and though he tried to ignore it, sometimes the weight pressed on him. He worried he might ruin everything simply by being himself. One afternoon, as they sat on the balcony overlooking the city, the princess spoke quietly, almost to herself. Kale, I don't know why I trust you. No one else ever. She trailed off, staring at the twin moons rising in the sky. Kale felt a lump in his throat. He wanted to say something comforting, but words felt clumsy. Instead, he offered her the last piece of his meal as he had done the first time. You don't have to trust me, he said softly. I just want to be here. With you. Her eyes glimmered with something Kale had never seen before. Relief, wonder, and an unspoken connection. She took the bread, but more importantly, she took his presence seriously. For a princess used to being surrounded by people who wanted favors, power, or attention, Kale gave her none of those things. He gave her respect. He gave her honesty. He gave her time. That simple gesture strengthened their bond. Over time, Kale began to understand the depths of her loneliness. He realized that her crown, her privileges, and her power had created walls around her. Few dared to look beyond them. But he had. And she noticed. It was in the quiet moments, the stolen meals, the laughter shared under alien skies, that Kale began to feel something he had never felt before. Purpose. Not because he was strong, not because he had skills the aliens admired, but because his heart, his simple human heart, had made a difference to someone who mattered more than anyone he had ever known. The settlement went on around them, bustling and chaotic, but in those corners, under the twin moons and the soft hum of the city, Kale and the princess had carved a space where nothing else existed. And in that space, trust began to grow, fragile and precious, ready to face whatever challenges the universe might send their way. For Kale, sharing a meal had been a small act. But for her, it was the first step in discovering a connection she thought impossible. And neither of them knew that this bond, so quiet and unassuming now, would soon face the greatest test of all. Kale had never imagined that he could feel at home in a world so different from Earth. Yet, every day he spent with the princess, he felt a little less like an outsider, and a little more like he belonged. They walked together through the bustling streets, laughed at the strange alien inventions in the market, and shared quiet moments on the rooftops where the city lights shimmered like stars. The princess began to confide in him more openly. She spoke of her responsibilities, the endless meetings with council members, and the pressure to always appear perfect. Kale listened carefully, never interrupting, never judging. He realized that beneath her beauty and power, she carried a weight so heavy that most of her people didn't even notice. And yet she smiled when she was with him. It was a simple smile, gentle and unguarded, one she never showed to anyone else. One evening, as they sat on a quiet balcony, she turned to him, her eyes reflecting the glow of the twin moons. Kale, do you ever feel lonely? She asked softly. He nodded. All the time, but I think loneliness feels different when you find someone who understands you. She looked at him, her expression unreadable for a moment, and then she laughed quietly, a sound so soft that Kyle felt it settle inside his chest. "I didn't think a human could understand," she admitted. "But you listen. You don't pretend. You see me." Kyle felt warmth spread through him, a mixture of pride and nervousness. I care," he said simply. "I care about you." Her eyes softened. She reached out and lightly touched his hand, a gesture that was both intimate and innocent. The contact sent a thrill through Kale, but more than that, it anchored him. In her touch, he felt trust, vulnerability, and something deeper that neither of them could yet name. Their growing closeness did not go unnoticed. Whispers began circulating among the palace staff and settlement citizens. Some admired the courage of the princess for spending time with a human, while others questioned her judgment. The council warned her gently, hinting that humans were unpredictable, dangerous even. The princess brushed off their concerns, but Kale could see the tension it created in her. She was caught between duty and the desire for a genuine connection. Kale, too, felt the pressure. He was a simple human with no power, no title, no influence. How could he protect her from judgment or from danger, or from the expectations of her world? He often lay awake at night thinking of the moments they had shared and worrying that something, or someone, might come between them. Yet, despite the uncertainty, their bond grew stronger. They found joy in the smallest things, a shared meal, a quiet laugh, a conversation that stretched into the night. Kyle taught her small earth games, simple riddles, and stories of humans and their strange ways. In return, she introduced him to the wonders of her world, the beauty of alien music, the art of her people, and the secrets of places only a princess could access. One night, as they watched the moons rise over the city, she turned to him and whispered, "I feel safe with you, and I haven't felt safe with anyone ever." Kale felt a lump in his throat. "I feel the same," he admitted. "Even if the world is against us, I'll be here." She smiled, a real smile that lit her entire face. And in that moment, Kale realized something extraordinary. A human, small and ordinary by the standards of the universe, had carved a place in the heart of a princess. Not through power, not through wealth, but through something far stronger: kindness, courage, and unwavering attention. As the night deepened, Kale knew that their bond was no longer just a secret friendship. It was becoming something powerful, something rare, something that could challenge the rules of two very different worlds. And somewhere in the back of his mind, he sensed that soon, their connection would be tested in ways neither of them could yet imagine. But for now, in the quiet glow of the moons, Kale and the princess simply existed, together, unguarded and completely human in their emotions, even on a planet filled with stars and alien marvels. For days, Kale had felt a shift in the settlement. The usual hum of the city still carried on, but something dark lingered beneath the surface. Whispers of unrest, hurried glances, and shadows that moved too quickly made him uneasy. The princess had noticed it too. Her usual calm and composed demeanor was tinged with tension, a silent worry Kale could not ignore. One afternoon, as they walked through a quieter part of the city, she paused, her eyes scanning the streets with a sharpness Kale had rarely seen. "Kale, there are those who do not want me to spend time with you," she said quietly. Her voice was steady, but the concern behind it made Kale's chest tighten. "They see humans as weak, untrustworthy. Some may even act against me because of it." Kale's heart sank. He had known their friendship was unusual, perhaps forbidden, but he hadn't imagined it could bring real danger. "Then what do we do?" he asked, gripping her hand lightly. "We stay careful," she replied, her voice firm but soft, "and we trust in what we have. But you must understand, Kale. If they find you with me, the consequences could be severe." Kyle swallowed hard, feeling the weight of her words. He was just a human. A single human. Yet he couldn't imagine leaving her side, not now, not ever. That evening, alarms rang through the city. Red lights flashed, and the distant roar of engines filled the air. Kale's heart raced as he looked toward the palace. He could see shadows moving, figures slipping through the streets with purpose. The princess stiffened beside him, her violet eyes wide with alarm. "They're here," she whispered. Kyle didn't hesitate. He grabbed her hand. "We need to move now." The streets erupted into chaos. Citizens ran in every direction as Kale and the princess darted through alleyways, guided by her knowledge of hidden paths and secret passages. Despite the danger, Kale felt a strange clarity. Fear did not paralyze him. It sharpened him. Every instinct, every observation, every small decision mattered. He had to protect her, and he would. They reached a secluded balcony overlooking the lower market. Below, shadowy figures approached, searching for them. The princess looked at Kyle, her face a mixture of fear and trust. "Kyle, I shouldn't have brought you into this," she said softly. "You're not alone," he replied, voice steady despite the chaos around them. "I'm here. I won't let them take you." Her eyes glistened with gratitude. For a brief moment, the world seemed to hold its breath. Then, without warning, the attackers moved closer. Kale acted instinctively. Using crates and carts nearby, he created obstacles, tripping some and slowing others. He grabbed a metal rod and, with careful strikes, defended their position as best he could. He was not a trained soldier, but he was clever, and his determination gave him strength the aliens had not expected. The princess watched, awestruck. This human, small and ordinary by alien standards, faced danger without hesitation. His courage was raw, real, and unlike anything she had ever seen. For the first time, she realized that strength was not always measured in power or speed. Sometimes it was measured in heart. Finally, the attackers retreated, realizing their plan had failed. The settlement returned to uneasy quiet, and Kale's chest heaved as he lowered the makeshift weapon. The princess ran to him, throwing her arms around him in a tight embrace. You risked yourself for me," she whispered, tears glimmering in her violet eyes. Kale hugged her back, feeling a warmth that chased away the adrenaline. "I couldn't let them hurt you," he murmured. In that moment, amidst the aftermath of chaos, Kale understood something profound. He was small. He was human. But the courage in his heart had made a difference. And the princess, so powerful, so royal, yet so vulnerable, had trusted him to stand with her. As they stood together, holding on to each other, Kale realized that danger could come from anywhere. But so could connection, trust, and the courage to face the impossible. And in that knowledge, he felt stronger than ever before. The night after the attack, Kale could not sleep. His mind replayed every moment. The shadows, the chaos, the way the princess had looked at him with trust and fear intertwined. He realized something he hadn't before. This wasn't just about survival. It was about proving that even a human, small and ordinary, could stand against dangers far greater than themselves. When the morning sun rose over the city, Kyle was already awake, pacing in his small quarters. He thought about the tools, the environment, and the intelligence he had learned from the aliens over the past weeks. Humans were not as strong as most alien species, but humans were clever. Quick thinking, improvisation, and determination. That was his strength. He would need all of it to protect the princess if another attack came. The princess arrived quietly, her steps soft on the floor. She looked at him, a mix of concern and admiration in her eyes. "Kale, you look tired. You should rest," she said. But Kale shook his head. "I can't," he replied. "I need to make sure nothing like last night happens again. I need to protect you." She studied him, and for a moment her regal composure slipped. "You don't have to do this alone," she said softly. "I have guards, powerful ones. You don't need to risk yourself." Kale met her gaze. "I'm not just your guard. I'm me, and whatever this is between us, I can't stand by and do nothing." The princess's eyes softened, and she reached for his hand. "I trust you," she whispered. "That's why I came to you first. That's why I stay with you." They spent the day preparing. Kale mapped out escape routes, identified weak points in the nearby alleys, and thought about every tool he could use in case of an emergency. The princess helped where she could, offering knowledge of secret passages and hidden vantage points. Together they formed a plan, one that relied not on strength but on ingenuity, quick thinking, and trust. Evening came, and Kale sensed the tension in the air. Figures moved in the shadows, subtle but unmistakable. The attackers had returned, more organized this time. They thought a human could not pose a threat, but Kale was ready. When the first wave approached, Kale acted decisively. He used carts, loose stones, and market stalls to create obstacles, slowing the attackers' advance. He guided the princess to a safer position, behind a series of crates while he kept watch. The aliens were stronger, but Kale's mind worked faster. He predicted their moves, anticipated their attacks and turned ordinary objects into defenses. The princess watched him, astonished. Her trust in him was absolute now. He was small, yes, human, yes, but in that moment, he was more formidable than anyone she had ever seen. His courage was raw and true, driven not by training or power, but by heart. Hours seemed to pass like minutes. Kale never wavered. Every time an attacker approached, he found a way to block, confuse, or redirect them. The princess, following his instructions, moved gracefully, their teamwork perfect despite the danger. Finally, the attackers realized their efforts were failing. Confused and frustrated, they retreated into the shadows from which they came. Kale sank to the ground, exhausted, and the princess knelt beside him. She placed her hands on his shoulders, her violet eyes shining with tears. "Kale, I've never seen anyone like you," she whispered. "Not in my life. You saved me." Kale shook his head, laughing weakly. "I didn't do it for praise. I did it because I care about you." She smiled, and in that smile, Kale felt something deeper than pride or relief. He felt connection, understanding, and love. She leaned closer, her forehead resting lightly against his, and whispered, "You're different, Kale. Not because of what you can do, but because of who you are." For the first time, Kale understood fully what she meant during their first meal together. It wasn't power, rank, or skill that mattered. It was heart, courage, compassion, and that, he realized, could change the world. In that quiet moment, amidst the aftermath of chaos and the retreat of danger, Kale and the princess felt a bond that went beyond words. Human and alien, ordinary and extraordinary, fear and trust. They had found something rare and unbreakable, and Kale knew with certainty that no challenge could undo it. The morning after the attack was quiet, almost eerily so. The settlement of Vera had returned to its usual hum, but Kale and the princess knew the events of the previous night would not be easily forgotten. Word had spread. Humans were not as weak or insignificant as the council had assumed. And Kale had proven something extraordinary. The princess stood beside him on the balcony, her violet eyes scanning the city below. "Kale," she said softly, "I don't think anyone expected what you did last night. Not the council, not the guards, no one." Kyle looked at her, feeling a strange mix of pride and humility. "I just did what I thought was right," he said. I couldn't let them hurt you." Her gaze softened, and for a moment she seemed less like a distant ruler and more like the girl he had first shared a meal with. Curious, vulnerable, and open. "You risked yourself for me," she whispered. "And in doing so, you changed how they see humans. You changed how I see humans." Kale felt a lump in his throat. He had never thought his small, ordinary actions could have such weight. On Earth, humans were often overlooked, dismissed, or underestimated. But here on Vera, his courage, kindness, and ingenuity had made a real difference. And it was not just in the eyes of the aliens, it was in her eyes, the princess who had trusted him from the very beginning. That afternoon, the council summoned the princess and Kale. Kale's heart pounded as he entered the grand chamber, the room filled with tall, imposing figures whose expressions were hard to read. He expected disapproval, perhaps even anger. But what he saw instead was curiosity, shock, and, most importantly, respect. The princess stepped forward, her hand brushing lightly against Kale's. "This human," she said firmly, "proved himself last night. He showed courage, intelligence, and a heart that is rare in any species. I trust him, and I ask you to do the same." The room was silent. Then one by one the council members nodded. The whispers of doubt faded, replaced by cautious acknowledgement. Humans were no longer seen as weak. Kale, a single human, had earned recognition not through titles or power, but through bravery, quick thinking, and compassion. Later, when they returned to the balcony, the princess turned to Kale, her expression soft and almost shy. "I've seen many warriors, many leaders, many beings of power," she said. "But none have touched me the way you have. Not through force, not through skill, but through heart." Kyle shook his head, laughing nervously. "I'm just a human. I don't have powers or armies." She smiled, a real radiant smile that made his chest tighten. "That is exactly why you are extraordinary. You are human, and yet, you are brave, clever, and true. You see others as they are, not as they appear. You care, and that makes you different." Kale felt a warmth spread through him, a sense of purpose and belonging he had never known. It was not fame, not title, not reward. It was something deeper, a recognition that who he was simply as a human mattered. That even in a universe filled with powerful beings, one human could make a difference. They stood together, the city of Vera stretching endlessly below them. Twin moons glimmered above, casting their gentle light over the streets and buildings. The princess placed her hand over his, her touch light but steady. "Thank you, Kyle," she whispered. "Not just for last night, but for for seeing me, for trusting me to see you." Kyle looked into her eyes, feeling something he could not fully name. Pride, gratitude, love, perhaps all of it. "I will always be here," he said softly, "for you and for anyone who needs it." In that moment, human and alien, ordinary and royal, realized that trust and courage could change worlds. Kale had proven that small acts, kindness, and bravery could defy expectations, and that sometimes the heart mattered more than power. Days passed, and the settlement of Vera slowly returned to its rhythm. Yet for Kale and the princess, nothing was ordinary anymore. Every corner of the city reminded them of the nights they had faced danger together, of the quiet moments shared under the glow of the twin moons, and of the trust they had built through simple acts of care. The princess often sought Kale's company, not out of duty, but because she genuinely wanted to be near him. She would laugh at his awkward jokes, lean on his shoulder while watching the city lights, and occasionally, she would whisper secrets meant for no one else. In return, Kale shared stories of Earth, simple human experiences that made her laugh, ponder, or sometimes sigh with quiet wonder. It was a bond neither of them had expected, yet both had come to cherish more than anything. One evening they stood on a balcony high above the city. The twin moons shimmered, casting a gentle silver light that reflected in the princess's violet eyes. She looked at him, her expression soft and serious. "Kale, I've never felt this way about anyone before. Not friends, not humans, not aliens. You've changed my world." Kale felt a lump in his throat. "I'm just a human," he said quietly. "I didn't do anything extraordinary." She shook her head gently, reaching out to hold his hand. "No, you don't understand. It's not just what you did. It's who you are. You care. You risked yourself when others would have run. You see the truth in people, and that makes you different." Her words sank deep into Kale's heart. For so long, humans had been overlooked, underestimated, even dismissed across the galaxy. But here on this distant world, the princess had shown him that small acts of kindness, courage, and honesty could carry weight far greater than titles, armies, or power. I never thought my heart could matter so much," Kale admitted. "And yet it seems like it does, to you. And that feels incredible." The princess smiled, her fingers lightly brushing his. "It matters more than you realize. You've reminded me that strength is not always in power. It's in the choices we make, in the courage we show, and in the care we offer to others." They stood together in silence for a while, simply watching the city below, the world above, and the vast universe stretching endlessly beyond. The dangers they had faced, the threats that had loomed over them, now felt smaller in comparison to the bond they had forged. Kyle realized that the universe was vast and unpredictable, but so too was the human heart. "I shared half my meal with you once," Kyle said softly, a small laugh escaping him. "I didn't know it would lead to all of this." The princess leaned closer, resting her forehead against his. "It wasn't the meal that mattered," she whispered. "It was you, your heart, your courage, your willingness to be human, even in a world that doesn't always understand your kind. That is what changed everything, for me, for the people of this world, and for you." Kyle felt a surge of warmth, a mix of pride, love, and purpose. He had started as an ordinary human, overlooked and underestimated. And now here he was, standing beside a princess, having faced danger, earned trust, and proven that humanity had a power the galaxy could not ignore. The power of heart. The princess squeezed his hand, and he returned the gesture, holding it firmly. "No matter what happens," she said, "we face it together." Kale nodded, feeling a quiet certainty settle within him. "Together," he echoed. In that moment, human and alien, ordinary and royal, realized something extraordinary. The smallest acts, the simplest gestures, and the bravest hearts could bridge worlds. Across the vast universe, in a city of lights and shadows, they had found each other. They had shown that kindness could overcome fear, courage could overcome danger, and trust could overcome doubt. And as the twin moons rose higher in the sky, Kale and the princess stood side by side, their bond unbroken, their hearts intertwined, and their story a testament to the enduring truth that humanity, even in its smallest form, could shine brighter than the stars.